From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
And good Sunday morning to you. Another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, October 4th. As we're now in the month of October, we're getting into a different period here, different changes, and we're expecting temperatures to be a little bit cooler for this month as a whole. We'll show you that in a second here. But we also had a big a big wrinkle in things this week with the eventuality of Hurricane Joaquin, which is now, of course, moving away from land, and it was one heck of a process this week with us trying to figure out exactly where this was going. We're going to get into a little bit of that too, and then end up with a little graphic for winter. So here is our long-range outlook. We always start off with the long-range outlook in the beginning of the video here, and this is our latest long-range outlook. It's going to be updated again this week. My long-range forecaster, Mike DeFino, is actually in Singapore this week, so he's going to be updating this from there. And then we have this is the most recent we had. This is as of September 25th. Not a lot of reason to change this. We're looking at this period between the 1st and the 15th to be below average. This might actually end up slightly below average here because we're starting off the month here through the first 3 or 4 days here well below average. And then when I say well below average, we're talking somewhere between anywhere from 6 to as much as 10 degrees below normal right now, and that's because of this system that we're just dealing with, all this rain and clouds, and we had temperatures stuck in the 40s in many locations for the day yesterday on Saturday. But so that's obviously well below average. Average is nowhere near that right now. So as far as a composite average, even though the low temperatures didn't drop that much at night, we still had average temperatures somewhere around 50, 52. Well, that's well below where they should be right now. So that's why you're having the temperatures below average right now. We did finish the month above average, and then we had this system coming in here for the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. We were out some heavy rain, some much needed rain. That was at the end of September, and actually got a lot of areas back to near normal. Believe it or not, near normal for the month of September. We are well below, and in just a matter of 2 days went from basically 3 inches below to about dead even. So a lot of areas got this rain. It was much needed to finish September. If you look back on the analogs, most of you are going to remember this month as of September as actually being very dry, and it was. The majority of the month was. But when you look back in history, say somebody looking at this 5 years ago and wants to say, how was September of 2015? Oh, look at that, it was near normal. It must have been a pretty good month. Well, it really wasn't. And sometimes that's why analogs are a little misleading. So we do use them, but we don't heavily weigh on them because there's some misleading information there, and that's a perfect case in point. And then we had this tropical moisture stream coming in over the weekend here, but we never did include in this graphic anything about a hurricane or Hurricane Joaquin. So we're never truly convinced that this is going to come here. And you're going to say, well, Bobby, you did a video up here and you said you were 75% confident that this thing was going to hit North Carolina. I'll show you why that was. Okay, I'll show you why that was, and we'll get into that too. Here's the temperature for the month of October, despite a little bit of a warm-up that we're going to have here next week. I think we do have, as we head toward the middle of the month, we're going to head down to below average in a big way. So the entire month as a whole is definitely going to have no doubts in my mind, especially starting off very well below normal. No doubts in my mind that this month will start below average. Here's what it looks like graphically. This is what we're looking at this week. We will have temperatures going slightly above normal this week. A little mini ridge kind of forming here over the east, and these are slightly above normal temperatures. So now this is 500. This is the ensembles now. So when you take the ensemble control, so this is looking at all of the ensembles that run for not just this particular operational model like the GFS or European model or what have you. This is the ensemble guidance. This is a better representation of what temperature will be. If they all agree, if you average them together, this is what they agree on. So this is a better representation of what the temperature should be. So we always use the ensembles for this. Above normal, we're expecting this week here, much of this entire work week heading into early next weekend, and then look what happens. Look what happens. Here comes the lowered heights. You got a ridge building out here in the west, and then you got a big trough here in the east here like this. So this is some cold air coming in here, and this is actually looking at early next week. Okay, early next week. So we will have this week that is going to be slightly above normal. Nothing crazy. We're talking about temperatures that are getting up to 70 in some locations. So that is, yeah, that's above normal. Temperatures are normals right now, like in the, mid to upper 60s or thereabouts. So if you're hitting 70, yeah, you're above normal. Is it 80s? No. Okay, but it will be slightly above normal nonetheless. But since we started off so warm, so cold in the beginning of this month, it's going to take a lot for that to recover. And a couple days of just a couple degrees, 2, 3, 4 degrees above normal isn't really going to do it to make it above normal for this month. So and then we get the cold shots coming in here. So there's cold shot number 1, somewhere around the 13th, 12th, 13th, 14th. And here's another shot right behind it. They're just going to get shot after shot. And look what happens here by the time we get to get into the second half of the month here. Here's your jet stream like this. Big ridge out west here. And big dip in the east here. This is a serious cold signature here that we get into the second half of the month here. We might talk about temperatures that are, that are stuck in the 40s and 50s for a little bit. So it's going to be, again, relative to this time of year. This is not showing that just because it's doing this doesn't mean, oh boy, we got to watch out for snow. I don't think so. Okay, this is not. I don't get anybody excited yet. It's still October, so just keep that in mind. Yes, we did have a freak snowstorm in 2011. October 29, 2011 here. Not impossible, but of course that was at the end of the month, not the middle. It was also a 1 in 100 year storm. So again, not impossible, but definitely not a probable thing. Here's what we had for October 2015 departures, temperature departures here, favoring the southern half for being further below normal than the northern half, but it's only by a degree or so. And just give you a case in point, just going by current observations right now, this is through yesterday. Allentown is about 5.8 degrees below normal. You get down to Philadelphia, it's more like 7. Okay, so 7 degrees below normal. So again, it's favoring the further south you went, the colder below normal it would be, not by much. Instead of -1 to -2 Fahrenheit below normal, it's 2 to 3. Okay, so I do think the month as a whole ends up below normal here, and this will be pretty close of a representation. Now, I do want to get into Hurricane Joaquin here. Now, this is now moving away. It's about to affect, here's the Bahamas down here. It's about to affect Bermuda up to its northeast here, and they should get some pretty good impacts up there too. Of course, the storm is not nearly as strong as it was at one point. And here is this is actually looking at this is the current setup of what we're looking at, where this storm is going off to the northeast here. Okay, all right, and then if we are looking at, I want to take a look at some other things here because we had. This is the GF. This is actually the European model. Okay, I see what they're doing here. This is the European model's depiction of what was going to happen back here on the 29th and 30th. Okay, this is what the European thought would happen, and this is one that a lot of people were ignoring. We were not ignoring it. I know it seemed publicly like we were, and I'll show you why we did. In our forum, we never ignored it. Okay, here is what it showed. It had one main system that was moving off to the northeast. That's what's happening right now. Okay, here's the Bahamas down here. And this is what it thought on the 29th that was going to happen this morning. So this is off to the northeast. Big high up here, okay, and it had an area low pressure here, another one, not related to this, that was bringing some heavy rain to South Carolina. Obviously, that's happening this morning, okay? Just fast forward to the current surface map. Look what we're doing here. Big storm right here. Here's the Bahamas. Big high pressure right here. This is your hurricane right here, by the way. Boom, off to the northeast. Okay, area low pressure right along the coast. Heavy rain in South Carolina. This is current. This is what's going on. Okay, so the 5 days ago, European model said, hey, this is what it's going to look like Sunday morning. This, guess what, folks, is exactly what's happening. So this was dead on from that aspect. Okay, now I'm going to show you what happened here. Sea surface temperatures in the Bahamas very, very, very warm. Now this is after there's some upwelling going on here, and this system moved away. These temperatures in here are all about 30 degrees Celsius. Very, very warm temperatures near the Bahamas. Okay, now it's cooled off slightly here because this is the latest depiction after the storm has moved off the northeast. It's not moving to cooler waters. That's why it's cooling down a little. It's dying down a little bit as it's moving away. But this system was predicted by the majority of the models, almost 90% of them. It was projected to come down to the southwest and then start making a turn to the north a lot quicker, not going that far south. All right. there was a trough coming into the eastern United States. That trough axis was turning negative by Saturday. Okay, so if that were the case, a negative visibility trough digging in here to the United States, if this didn't go that far south, this trough would have picked it up and slammed it into the U.S. eastern seaboard, and it probably would have been a pretty strong hurricane somewhere in the vicinity of North Carolina. Okay, so when we look at this, here's what the GFS was showing. Okay, it had, and here's the key piece. We're going to circle. We're going to talk about this too. This is the key piece. This is the remnants of Ida. Okay, GFS did not have. Here's the Bahamas right here. Bahamas are right here. Now it eventually got all the way down to right here. The GFS said, it's going to be up here. I'm not going to get that far south. Well, that allows this interaction between this trough. Here's a trough and upper level low right here, to lasso this in back to the coast toward North Carolina. Okay, it has nowhere to go at that point because Ida's remnants are to its east. All right, and we get into what the European model showed. Now I can show you this now because this is not current information. This is from several days ago. All right, normally I can't show you anything from the European model. This is a good representation of exactly what happened here. Here is, we have this deep trough here. Here's your trough axis, just like this, all right, turning negative. Here's a negative trough. Upper level lows right here, okay? These are the remnants of Ida. Now going, instead of being to the east of it like the GFS showed, if you look at the other graphic here, due east. Why is that? Because this is further north. So, again, trough axis, turn negative. Here's your upper level low. Here's Joaquin down here. But look how far, here's the Bahamas right here. Look how far southwest it is. All right, that's a big difference. GFS had it all the way up here. Well, if it's all the way up here, this trough's going to pick it up, and guess what? Right into the coast. Okay, because it can't go anywhere. But what this did essentially, by having Ida up here and this moving very slowly, it was moving very slow. It allowed Ida to kind of come over the top of it. The remnants of Ida, anyway, because this was just drifting 5 miles per hour to the southwest, very, very slow toward just battering the central Bahamas. Well, this allowed, since Ida's remnants were here, it actually weakened the ridge up here and allowed Ida an escape, or Joaquin to have an escape route to the northeast, and that's exactly what happened. So instead of this trough axis picking this up and slamming it into the coast, it actually pushed it off to the northeast because you had a weakness in the ridge up here. Okay, and this is what the European model is showing all along. And why couldn't we say that publicly? Why couldn't we just say, you know what, it's not going to hit? Well, this is the track guidance that morning. European model was on its own. Look at all the models. All these little lines represent a model run, and there's a tremendous amount of models saying, no, the trough's going to pick it up, and it's going to, even though it's all the way down here, it's going to slam it right into the coastline. So we would be fools outside of our forum behind a private paywall where nobody can see us talking except our premium members. We would be fools to sit here and say, you know what, we think it's going to go out to sea because we're doing a public disservice. If we're wrong, that is doing a disservice to the public. Okay, we're going on what we thought was correct, which was, hey, European model makes the most sense. This might just head off to northeast like this. Everything makes sense what the European model is doing, and it's consistent, and it's the best model we have. But we can't use it when it's on its own, guys. We cannot use it. We got a lot of people lashing us about this. You have to understand how this works. If you have this much agreement here, I don't care if it's best model in the world or not. European model isn't always right. It wasn't right with that big blizzard that never happened at the end of January last year. It's not perfect, okay? And when it's on its own, you have to play the statistical probability. So when we sit there and say, if I did my video, which I did a 19-minute video explaining everything, the next day I'm getting hammered because everything's starting to cave to the European model, and I switched the other way. Well, 75% chance that it now heads out to sea. Well, yesterday you said 75% hitting the coast. Well, no kidding. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And this isn't just about using models, okay? We use observations too. This was still possible. It wasn't impossible this happened. So when this much agreement saying going to the coast here, I say, you know, it was such it was a game of inches here. It really was. It was so close, whether it went into here or came out to sea. It was so close. So we couldn't side with the European model, even though our gut said, you know what, this has a good idea. It makes sense. Let's follow it. We wanted to. We just said so in the forum. Couldn't say it publicly because there's too much agreement here, and you have to understand how that works. Okay, so with 75% was actually more than 75% of these models showing hitting the coast. We kept it at 75% because the European model, which we agreed with, we actually weighted just one model, 25%. So that's a pretty high probability considering that all these other models were saying no. And then, of course, it went out to sea, and we didn't have anything to deal with, thankfully, except for now we're dealing with the coastal erosion here. And that was because of this high pressure off to the northeast here, combined with this area low pressure here. So you got a pressure gradient come through in between them that's coming in like this, and you have this, even if it's not raining, you have the coastal flooding going on. So that's going to continue this weekend. That should improve. Might have some high surf yet on Monday, but I think things will dramatically improve. Today will be better than yesterday, and we'll gradually improve until we get into next week. And we're actually looking at a pretty dry week this upcoming week. So we'll probably get in next video, we'll get back more into the winter discussion. Did want to end on one thing, though. This is the SST anomaly forecast for December, January, February, and this has been pretty consistent. Very consistent. This is showing your heights up here, showing cold air in the eastern United States here across our coverage area here, especially showing this cold air sticking around with a stormy pattern. So this could be on to something. This is including December. This is an anomaly for December, January, February, and although we still think December starts off on the mild side, we do think at some point in January it flips. February, March could be a pretty wild ride around here. We're going to get more into the winter again as we get into next week, start talking about snow cover and things like that, see how that's progressing. Just want to touch on what the current topic was, Hurricane Joaquin. Of course, that's continuing to move away from the mainland in the United States. Not expect to impact us this weekend at all. And we'll get back into the winter as we get into next week. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich, and that is this edition of Weather Weeklies for October 4th, 2015. See you next week.